a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Arsenal FC. Arsenal Football Club is a professional football club based in Islington, London, England, that plays in the Premier League, the top flight of English football. The club has won 13 league titles, a record 13 FA Cups, 2 League Cups, the League Centenary Trophy, 15 FA Community Shields, 1 UEFA Cup Winners Cup and 1 Intercities Fairs Cup. Arsenal was the first club from the south of England to join the Football League, in 1893, and they reached the First Division in 1904. Relegated only once, in 1913, they continue the longest streak in the top division, and have won the second most top-flight matches in English football history. In the 1930s, Arsenal won 5 league championships and 2 FA Cups, and another FA Cup and 2 championships after the war. In 1970-71, they won their first league and FA Cup double. Between 1989 and 2005, they won 5 league titles and 5 FA Cups, including 2 more doubles. They completed the 20th century with the highest average league position. Herbert Chapman won Arsenal's first national trophies, but died prematurely. He helped introduce the WM formation, floodlights, and shirt numbers, and added the white sleeves and brighter red to Arsenal's kit. Arsene Wenger was the longest-serving manager and won the most trophies. He won a record 7 FA Cups, and his title-winning team set an English record for the longest top-flight unbeaten league run at 49 games between 2003 and 2004, receiving the nickname the Invincibles, and a special gold Premier League trophy. In 1886, Woolwich munitions workers founded the club as Dial Square. In 1913, the club crossed the city to Arsenal Stadium in Highbury, becoming close neighbours of Tottenham Hotspur, and creating the North London Derby. In 2006, they moved to the nearby Emirates Stadium. In terms of revenue, Arsenal was the 6th highest-earning football club in the world, earned €487.6 million in 2016-17 season. Based on social media activity from 2014 to 2015, Arsenal's fanbase is the 5th largest in the world. In 2018, Forbes estimated the club was the 3rd most valuable in England, with the club being worth $2.24 billion. 1886-1919, changing names. On the 1st of December 1886, munitions workers in Woolwich, now southeast London, formed Arsenal as Dial Square, with David Danskin as their first captain. Named after the heart of the Royal Arsenal complex, they took the name of the whole complex a month later. Royal Arsenal FC's first home was Plumstead Common, though they spent most of their time in southeast London playing on the other side of Plumstead, at the Manor Ground. Royal Arsenal won Arsenal's first trophies in 1890 and 1891, and these were the only Football Association trophies Arsenal won during their time in southeast London. In 1891, Royal Arsenal became the first London club to turn professional. Royal Arsenal renamed themselves for a second time upon becoming a limited liability company in 1893. They registered their new name, Woolwich Arsenal, with the Football League when the club ascended later that year. Woolwich Arsenal was the first southern member of the Football League, starting out in the 2nd Division, and winning promotion to the 1st Division in 1904. Falling attendances, due to financial difficulties among the munitions workers and the arrival of more accessible football clubs elsewhere in the city, led the club close to bankruptcy by 1910. Businessmen Henry Norris and William Hall became involved in the club, and sought to move them elsewhere. In 1913, soon after relegation back to the 2nd Division, Woolwich Arsenal moved to the new Arsenal Stadium in Highbury, North London. This saw their 3rd change of name. The following year, they reduced Woolwich Arsenal to simply the Arsenal. In 1919, the Football League voted to promote the Arsenal, instead of relegated local rivals Tottenham Hotspur, into the newly enlarged First Division. Despite only listing the club 6th in the 2nd Division's last pre-war season of 1914-15, some books have speculated that the club won this election to Division 1 by dubious means. Later that year, the Arsenal started dropping, in official documents, gradually shifting its name for the final time towards Arsenal, as it is generally known today. 1919-1953, Bank of England Club. With a new home and First Division football, attendances were more than double those at the Manor Ground, and Arsenal's budget grew rapidly. Their location and record-breaking salary offer lured star Huddersfield Town manager Herbert Chapman in 1925. Over the next 5 years, Chapman built a new Arsenal. He appointed enduring new trainer Tom Whittaker, implemented Charlie Buchan's new twist on the nascent WM formation, captured young players like Cliff Bastin and Eddie Hapgood, and lavished Highbury's income on stars like David Jack and Alex James. With record-breaking spending and gate receipts, Arsenal quickly became known as the Bank of England Club. Transformed, Chapman's Arsenal claimed their first national trophy, the FA Cup, in 1930. 2 league championships followed, in 1930-31 and 1932-33. Chapman also presided over multiple off-the-pitch changes. White sleeves and shirt numbers were added to the kit. A tube station was named after the club, and the first of 2 opulent, Art Deco stands was completed, with some of the first floodlights in English football. Suddenly, in the middle of the 1933-34 season, Chapman died of pneumonia. His work was left to Joe Shaw and George Allison, who saw out a hat-trick with the 1933-34 and 1934-35 titles, and then won the 1936 FA Cup and 1937-38 title. World War II meant the Football League was suspended for 7 years. But Arsenal returned to win it in the second post-war season, 1947-48. This was Tom Whittaker's first season as manager, after his promotion to succeed Allison, and the club had equalled the Champions of England record. They won a 3rd FA Cup in 1950, and then won a record-breaking 7th championship in 1952-53. However, the war had taken its toll on Arsenal. The club had had more players killed than any top-flight club, and debt from reconstructing the North Bank stand bled Arsenal's resources. 1953-1986, Mediocrity, Mee and Neill. Arsenal were not to win the league or the FA Cup for another 18 years. The 53 champion squad was old, and the club failed to attract strong enough replacements. Although Arsenal were competitive during these years, their fortunes had waned. The club spent most of the 1950s and 1960s in mid-league mediocrity. Even former England captain Billy Wright could not bring the club any success as manager. In a stint between 1962 and 1966, Arsenal tentatively appointed club physiotherapist Bertie Mee as acting manager in 1966. With new assistant Don Howe and new players such as Bob McNabb and George Graham, Mee led Arsenal to their first League Cup finals, in 1967-68 and 1968-69. Next season saw a breakthrough, Arsenal's first competitive European trophy, the 1969-70 Intercities Fairs Cup. And the season after, an even greater triumph, Arsenal's first League and FA Cup double, and a new Champions of England record. This marked a premature high point of the decade. The double-winning side was soon broken up and the rest of the decade was characterised by a series of near misses, starting with Arsenal finishing as FA Cup runners-up in 1972, and First Division runners-up in 1972-73. Former player Terry Neill succeeded Mee in 1976. At the age of 34, he became the youngest Arsenal manager to date, with new signings like Malcolm MacDonald and Pat Jennings, and a crop of talent in the side such as Liam Brady and Frank Stapleton. The club reached a trio of FA Cup finals, and lost the 1980 European Cup Winners' Cup final on penalties. The club's only trophy during this time was a last-minute 3-2 victory over Manchester United in the 1979 FA Cup final, widely regarded as a classic. 1986-2018, Graham to Wenger. One of Bertie Mee's double winners, George Graham, returned as manager in 1986. Arsenal won their first League Cup in 1987, Graham's first season in charge. By 1988, new signings Nigel Winterburn, Lee Dixon, and Steve Bould had joined the club to complete the famous back four, led by existing player Tony Adams. They immediately won the 1988 Football League Centenary Trophy, and followed it with the 1988-89 Football League title, snatched with a last-minute goal in the final game of the season against fellow title challengers Liverpool. Graham's Arsenal won another title in 1990-91, losing only one match, won the FA Cup and League Cup double in 1993, and the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1994. Graham's reputation was tarnished when he was found to have taken kickbacks from agent Roone Haig for signing certain players, and he was dismissed in 1995. His permanent replacement, Bruce Rioch, lasted for only one season, leaving the club after a dispute with the board of directors. The club metamorphosed during the long tenure of manager Arsene Wenger, appointed in 1996. New, attacking football, an overhaul of dietary and fitness practices, and efficiency with money have defined his reign. Accumulating key players from Wenger's homeland, such as Patrick Vieira and Thierry Henry, Arsenal won a second league and cup double in 1997-98, and a third in 2001-02. In addition, the club reached the final of the 1999-2000 UEFA Cup, were victorious in the 2003 and 2005 FA Cups, and won the Premier League in 2003-04 without losing a single match, an achievement which earned the side the nickname, the Invincibles. This latter feat came within a run of 49 league matches unbeaten from the 7th of May 2003 to the 24th of October 2004, a national record. Arsenal finished in either first or second place in the league in 8 of Wenger's first 9 seasons at the club, although on no occasion were they able to retain the title. The club had never progressed beyond the quarter-finals of the Champions League until 2005-06. In that season they became the first club from London in the competition's 50-year history to reach the final, in which they were beaten 2-1 by Barcelona. In July 2006, they moved into the Emirates Stadium, after 93 years at Highbury. Arsenal reached the final of the 2007 and 2011 League Cups, losing 2-1 to Chelsea and Birmingham City respectively. The club had not gained a major trophy since the 2005 FA Cup until the 17th of May 2014 when, spearheaded by then club record acquisition Mesut Ozil, Arsenal beat Hull City in the 2014 FA Cup final, coming back from a 2-0 deficit to win the match 3-2. A year later, Arsenal appeared in the FA Cup final for the second time in a row, defeating Aston Villa 4-0 in the final, and becoming the most successful club in the tournament's history with 12 titles, a record which Manchester United would tie the following season. Arsenal later won the FA Cup for a record 13th time, defeating Chelsea 2-1 in the 2017 final and once more becoming the outright leader in terms of FA Cups won. The victory also saw Wenger become the first manager in English football history to win 7 FA Cups. However, in that same season, Arsenal finished in the 5th position in the league, the first time they had finished outside the top 4 since before Wenger arrived in 1996. After another unspectacular league season the following year, Wenger announced his departure from the club on the 20th of April 2018, after 22 years as manager. His decision was met by responses of praise throughout English and world football from many pundits and former players, who also thanked him for developing them as people. His final home match in charge was a 5-0 win over Burnley, where his entrance was met to a standing ovation by supporters. The final match under the Wenger era was a 1-0 away victory against Huddersfield. 2018-present, Emery era. After conducting an overhaul in the club's operating model to coincide with Wenger's departure, Spaniard Unai Emery was named as the club's new head coach on the 23rd of May 2018. He would become the club's first ever head coach, while also their second ever manager from outside the United Kingdom. His first match was an 8-0 win in a friendly against Boreham Wood. Crest. Unveiled in 1888, Royal Arsenal's first crest featured 3 cannons viewed from above, pointing northwards, similar to the coat of arms of the Metropolitan Borough of Woolwich. These can sometimes be mistaken for chimneys, but the presence of a carved lion's head and a cascabel on each are clear indicators that they are cannons. This was dropped after the move to Highbury in 1913, only to be reinstated in 1922, when the club adopted a crest featuring a single cannon, pointing eastwards, with the club's nickname, the Gunners, inscribed alongside it. This crest only lasted until 1925, when the cannon was reversed to point westward and its barrel slimmed down. In 1949, the club unveiled a modernised crest featuring the same style of cannon below the club's name, set in black letter, and above the coat of arms of the Metropolitan Borough of Islington, and a scroll inscribed with the club's newly adopted Latin motto, Victoria Concordia Crescit, victory comes from harmony, coined by the club's programme editor Harry Homer. For the first time, the crest was rendered in colour, which varied slightly over the crest's lifespan, finally becoming red, gold and green. Because of the numerous revisions of the crest, Arsenal were unable to copyright it, although the club had managed to register the crest as a trademark, and had fought a long legal battle with a local street trader who sold unofficial Arsenal merchandise. Arsenal eventually sought a more comprehensive legal protection. Therefore, in 2002 they introduced a new crest featuring more modern curved lines and a simplified style, which was copyrightable. The cannon once again faces east, and the club's name is written in a sans serif typeface above the cannon. Green was replaced by dark blue. The new crest was criticised by some supporters. The Arsenal Independent Supporters Association claimed that the club had ignored much of Arsenal's history and tradition with such a radical modern design, and that fans had not been properly consulted on the issue. Until the 1960s, a badge was worn on the playing shirt only for high-profile matches such as FA Cup finals, usually in the form of a monogram of the club's initials in red on a white background. The monogram theme was developed into an Art Deco-style badge on which the letters A and C framed a football rather than the letter F, the whole set within a hexagonal border. This early example of a corporate logo, introduced as part of Herbert Chapman's rebranding of the club in the 1930s, was used not only on cup final shirts, but as a design feature throughout Highbury Stadium, including above the main entrance, and inlaid in the floors. From 1967, a white cannon was regularly worn on the shirts, until replaced by the club crest, sometimes with the addition of the nickname, the Gunners, in the 1990s. In the 2011-12 season, Arsenal celebrated their 125th anniversary. The celebrations included a modified version of the current crest worn on their jerseys for the season. The crest was all white, surrounded by 15 oak leaves to the right, and 15 laurel leaves to the left. The oak leaves represent the 15 founding members of the club who met at the Royal Oak pub. The 15 laurel leaves represent the design detail on the 6-pence pieces paid by the founding fathers to establish the club. The laurel leaves also represent strength. To complete the crest, 1886 and 2011 are shown on either sides of the motto, forward, at the bottom of the crest. Colours. For much of Arsenal's history, their home colours have been bright red shirts with white sleeves and white shorts, though this has not always been the case. The choice of red is in recognition of a charitable donation from Nottingham Forest, soon after Arsenal's foundation in 1886. Two of Dial Square's founding members, Fred Beardsley and Maurice Bates, were former Forest players who had moved to Woolwich for work. As they put together the first team in the area, no kit could be found, so Beardsley and Bates wrote home for help and received a set of kit and a ball. The shirt was red currant, a dark shade of red, and was worn with white shorts and socks with blue and white hoops. In 1933, Herbert Chapman, wanting his players to be more distinctly dressed, updated the kit, adding white sleeves and changing the shade to a brighter pillar box red. Two possibilities have been suggested for the origin of the white sleeves. One story reports that Chapman noticed a supporter in the stands wearing a red sleeveless sweater over a white shirt. Another was that he was inspired by a similar outfit worn by the cartoonist Tom Webster, with whom Chapman played golf. Regardless of which story is true, the red and white shirts have come to define Arsenal, and the team have worn the combination ever since, aside from 2 seasons. The first was 1966-67, when Arsenal wore all red shirts. This proved unpopular and the white sleeves returned the following season. The second was 2005-06, the last season that Arsenal played at Highbury, when the team wore commemorative red currant shirts similar to those worn in 1913, their first season in the stadium. The club reverted to their normal colours at the start of the next season. In the 2008-09 season, Arsenal replaced the traditional all-white sleeves with red sleeves with a broad white stripe. Arsenal's home colours have been the inspiration for at least 3 other clubs. In 1909, Sparta Prague adopted a dark red kit like the one Arsenal wore at the time. In 1938, Hibernian adopted the design of the Arsenal shirt sleeves in their own green and white strip. In 1920, Sporting Clube de Braga's manager returned from a game at Highbury and changed his team's green kit to a duplicate of Arsenal's red with white sleeves and shorts, giving rise to the team's nickname of Os Arsenalistas. These teams still wear those designs to this day. For many years Arsenal's away colours were white shirts and either black or white shorts. In the 1969-70 season, Arsenal introduced an away kit of yellow shirts with blue shorts. This kit was worn in the 1971 FA Cup final as Arsenal beat Liverpool to secure the double for the first time in their history. Arsenal reached the FA Cup final again the following year wearing the red and white home strip and were beaten by Leeds United. Arsenal then competed in 3 consecutive FA Cup finals between 1978 and 1980 wearing their lucky yellow and blue strip, which remained the club's away strip until the release of a green and navy away kit in 1982-83. The following season, Arsenal returned to the yellow and blue scheme, albeit with a darker shade of blue than before. When Nike took over from Adidas as Arsenal's kit provider in 1994, Arsenal's away colours were again changed to two-tone blue shirts and shorts. Since the advent of the lucrative replica kit market, the away kits have been changed regularly, with Arsenal usually releasing both away and third-choice kits. During this period the designs have been either all-blue designs, or variations on the traditional yellow and blue, such as the metallic gold and navy strip used in the 2001-02 season, the yellow and dark grey used from 2005 to 2007, and the yellow and maroon of 2010 to 2013. Until 2014, the away kit was changed every season, and the outgoing away kit became the third-choice kit if a new home kit was being introduced in the same year. Since Puma began manufacturing Arsenal's kits in 2014, new home, away, and third kits are released every single season. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?